This is an interview with Kristen Houghton, author of the top-selling book, And Then I'll Be Happy. Stop sabotaging your happiness and put your own life first. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, Pam. Thank you for having me.
And Then I'll Be Happy is a book about, as women, we often put ourselves last. Your book explains how we can and should begin to reclaim our happiness. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, for me personally, it was the realization that I never allowed myself to be happy in the present. I was always placing my happiness somewhere in the future. So I wrote an article for Family Magazine titled The Elusive State of Happiness, describing how I felt. And I was amazed at the mail and response I got from women who said to me, basically, you're writing my story. This is exactly how I feel. I never allow myself to be happy. And these were from women from all walks of life, Pam. Professional, women working outside the home, stay-at-home moms, women in their 20s, all the way up into their 60s, all saying the same thing. I don't allow myself to be happy. So from the letters came interviews, and from the interviews came the 14 stories that make up the book.
How do women commonly sabotage their happiness?
Well, there are two basic ways that women sabotage their happiness. One is in relationships. We're always waiting for that person, that one person, to make us happy. And when you do that, you place a tremendous burden on that particular person and you shortchange yourself because you're the only one who has that power to make you happy. Another way that women sabotage their happiness is we want to be Goldilocks and Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Everything has to be just right for us to be happy. And everything is never going to be just right. So what you're doing is you're wasting your days without happiness. Life is what you live every single day, so you might as well have some happiness in it.
Why do women place their own happiness last?
You know, we get a subtle message from society that says that the woman that places her own wants and needs last is somehow elevated, she's sanctified, she becomes a heroine. And you know, that's really not true. It doesn't help us to put our own needs last. It's not good for today's woman, and it definitely is not necessary.
In your book, you say that happiness shouldn't be conditional. What is conditional happiness?
Conditional happiness is when you place specific conditions and reasons for how and when you can be happy. Now that might be something like when I get that promotion at work, when I'm in a better relationship, when my children are out of college and I no longer have to pay tuition. What you're basically saying to yourself is you're not going to be happy until these conditions occur, and they may never occur. So you're always living your life without happiness because you're, again, postponing it and waiting.
Many of us, upon becoming parents, focus so much on our children that we risk losing ourselves. How can a woman parent without losing her identity?
You know, this is also very common. What you have to do is you have to brand yourself. You have to reclaim your identity. You're not just somebody's daughter, somebody's wife, somebody's mom. You have a name. So if you are a volunteer librarian at your child's school, make sure you let people know that you're Jane Smith, volunteer librarian. When you claim your identity, you are fulfilling your life. And when you value your own life, your children will learn to value their lives because you're their best role model.
What is the myth of perfection, and why is it harmful to women?
Well, the myth of perfection came about in the late 1980s when the idea was that not only could a woman have it all, she should have it all, and she should do it all well. So you could have your family, you could have your career, and you being Superwoman would make sure that everything got done. And that is just not going to work. There are times when you're going to give more time and effort to your family, more time and effort to your job, so nothing's ever going to be equal. The sad thing is that a lot of women, to attain the myth of perfection, actually self-medicate. They do it through alcohol and through prescription drugs. And it's impossible to attain that myth of perfection.
You write the popular lifestyle column for the Huffington Post, and one of your topics is relationships. Is there a connection between that column and your book, And Then I'll Be Happy?
Oh, definitely. Relationships, women work so much harder at making a relationship successful than a man does. It's not that men don't work at it, but women seem to bear the brunt of whether that relationship is successful or not. And sometimes we're so involved in the relationship that what we do is we're still working at it when it's unworkable. We need to let go and do something else. You can't stay with that relationship. You need to go on to another relationship. Any relationship should enhance your life. It shouldn't become a second full-time job.
What are your 3 top tips for women to remember on their path to happiness?
Well, I think the 3 top tips from my book that I would give women, number 1 would be learn to be in charge of your own happiness. You're the only one that can make you happy. You're the only one that can actually create a happy life for yourself. You know, in India, in rural India, the eve before a woman's marriage, her mother will come and say to her, never let anyone else be in charge of your happiness. And that's great advice for that young woman. It's also great advice for us. The second thing that I would tell women is know what your talents are. Discover what your talents are, use them well, and don't be afraid to fail. Everyone's afraid to fail, but this is what failure is. Failure simply means that what you tried didn't work, so you have to go back, tweak it a little, make a few changes, and then try it again. And even if you have to try it several times, you will be successful, so don't be afraid of failure. The third tip is that you need to make your dreams and your goals your concrete plans. Don't postpone them forever, and be prepared for opportunity. Luck is when opportunity and preparation meet. If you're not prepared for an opportunity, it will pass you by. So you have to be prepared to take full advantage of every opportunity that comes your way. And if you do all these 3 tips, you will stop sabotaging your happiness and put your own life first.
Thank you for being with us today, Kristen.
Thank you for having me, Pam. It's been my pleasure.